Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Welcome, everyone, to another exhilarating episode of the Follow the Brand podcast, where we help you build a 5-star brand people will follow. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, and today we're about to embark on a journey into the realm of public relations, branding, and the transformative power of effective communication and business. In the world of PR, where the landscape is constantly evolving and the stakes are high, our guest today stands out as a beacon of innovation and strategic mastery. She's not just the owner of Joto PR, but a trailblazer who has redefined the norms of public relations with her disruptive approach. Let me introduce you to the remarkable, the indomitable Karla Jo. Karla Jo, often referred to as KJ, is a mastermind in weaving the intricate tapestry of PR, branding, and marketing into a cohesive strategy that not only elevates businesses, but also transforms them. Her insights have reshaped how we perceive public relations, making her a sought-after strategist and a vanguard in the field. Today, she joins us to share her groundbreaking strategy, her journey into revolutionizing PR, and how she's helping businesses to thrive in this fast-paced, ever-changing world. We'll delve into the interconnected nature of PR, branding, and marketing, and explore their collective impact on business success. With KJ's unique perspective, we're set to uncover the secrets of sparking broad brand awareness, influence public perception, and much more. Whether you are a startup trying to carve your niche or an established entity looking to revamp your strategy, gear up for an episode that promises to be nothing short of enlightening and transformative. Stay tuned as we dive deep with Karla Jo right here on the Follow Brand podcast, where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. Welcome, everybody, in the 5-star BDM family. This is the Follow Brand podcast, and I always bring a new special guest. We're going all the way over to Tampa, Florida, and we're going to have a great conversation with the owner of Joto PR. We're talking about Karla Jo. I call her KJ affectionately, and she has been in my realm for a little bit. She has shown me the way of demystifying what public relations is all about. I was on her show maybe 2 years ago, and we really hit it off. And she showed me and talked to me about some things I just wasn't sure where PR sits in relation to sales, in relation to marketing, in relation to businesses, and how that all comes together. We're going to have a great conversation today, because I know some people out there, just like me, have questions around that, how they can get that ROI on their PR investment. She's known as the anti-PR person. We want to know about that. So, KJ, you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. You introduced me greatly. Thank you. I am the anti-PR chief strategist and evangelist for Joto PR. Disruptors. We deal with disruptive, innovative tech companies to help them increase their share of voice, educate, become more creditable, and be able to compete against the behemoths. That they have better technology and are more agile and a better cost for their clients. And it gives them that voice to be able to prove that so people trust them before they buy.
Man, I like that credibility. Some instant credibility. Love it. So let's jump right in, because this is the question of the day. This is what jumps out. I always like to start sometimes with I call the elephant in the room. What's the elephant in the room? Help us understand the differences between public relations, marketing, branding, sales. I mean, why would somebody need a public relations company?
It's such a good question. And we're all sisters of another mister or brothers of another mother, but we all are like intimately connected with each other. And sometimes that can get watered down or the lines blurred. But I'll give you a really simple example. Okay. Branding. Let's start with branding. You're a brander, right?
Yes.
This is, putting that iron stamp on the cattle so people know it's you. That's your cow, right?
Yeah.
Once that's done, you have to create broad awareness for that brand. And I mean broad awareness in terms of publicizing your good works, making yourself well known, having people have good relations and liking your brand, and changing the way people think about your products and services. That's PR. That's how PR is supposed to be done. And then marketing comes in and takes those people that are now aware, right? And interested. PR gets people interested and comfortable in doing business with you. And then they pull them down the funnel and create a demand for your services and products. And then sales takes those demands. I'm now interested. Yes, I raised my hand, right? Marketing pulls them down. They go, yes, I'd like more information. I'd like to talk to a salesperson. I'd like your ebook. I'd like this. And sales harvests the crop, right?
Yeah.
And closes that. And then the loop starts again.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you put it in a way. First, you've got to get branded. You've got to have a voice. You've got to have some kind of vision, something that's visible. And you're taking that visibility and making that target audience aware of what you do, why you do it, why that's important. And you get it out there into all these different distribution models, I guess, and opportunities to know. I know, and I love this, and I showed you this after we did our interview. And because Joto PR is so well known that you've got the relationships with a lot of different media outlets. So I go to my Alexa, I won't say it too loud, I don't want it to come on, and I would say, hey, tell me about Grant McGaw. And it would tell me about myself, and it said, this is a reference from Joto PR. I'm like, wow.
I know, you're even
good PR.
That is good PR. I will add to this so that people understand why that's important. Only 3 to 7% of your target audience is ever going to buy from you. 3% are ready to buy from you now. The other 4% of that 7% will be later. So how do you cast a wide enough targeted net to find that 3 and 5% and get them interested, right? That's what you're really dealing with on a mathematical scale.
No, that's a big scale. That numbers, everyone understands that sales is a numbers game. And if sales is that fourth leg down from this whole, from branding to PR to marketing and then sales, we need to understand that, but you've got a very curated audience when you get down to the sales funnel where it really becomes impactful. And you can actually solve some problems for the people that are interested in your services that you bring.
I love that.
You like that?
Solving, well, you solve problems because
that's it.
Listen, sales does not want to educate the prospect. They want to close. So if the prospect is educated through PR, articles, news articles, podcasts, TV, radio, an educated prospect is much easier to close, right?
Yes, totally agree with that. Totally agree. Now you're just having conversation. That's the difference. Before you're having pitches, right? And I want the audience to really understand that, especially a lot of my salespeople out there in business development, there's a difference between having a sales pitch and having a sales conversation. Sales conversation is two-way. Pitches are usually one way. So if you're doing a lot of pitches, it's just one way. And that's sometimes, if they're not curated correctly, they're not prepped correctly, they haven't got a lot of this information, that's what gives sales a bad name because you're out of order. You're doing a lot of pitches about something to someone else that has no interest in your product or service, and that is what is irritating. However,
true.
You like that? You like that?
Yes.
That's a big difference. So when you start to have a conversation like me and you, we're having a conversation. It's two-way. We both are interested in solving the problem. We're both interested in what we're talking about. We're both interested in the passions that drive us to go further down the road to be successful in our endeavor. And I think that's so important. Now, I'm going to ask you this. In your advertising, and I've seen this, you say you are the anti-PR. You have an anti-PR blitz type of package. You're like, I need to change the narrative around public relations. Why did you feel that was necessary? And give us some context around how you've been effective with that.
Sure, happy to. Anti-PR came from my clients and prospects. So my background is in crisis management. Crisis management works off of mathematics, the media's algorithm, and a little bit of psychology to turn the tide of public opinion so a company can, again, compete, employ, and sell when they've been hurt in the court of public opinion. It is actually based off of engineering and physics laws.
Interesting.
Now, the proactive side of my industry is not really taught that. Why? I don't know. But I was a bit naive in my early part of my career because that's all I knew was crisis management. That's where I got started. That's what I did. It just so happened that the companies that we turned around came back to us and said, these are serial entrepreneurs. Hey, our startups are not getting any love. We can't get it from traditional PR. Can you help us? I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Pardon my French. but I decided, well, if the corollary holds true, right? Well, you can turn a company around using this product or process. Why couldn't you do it to put a company that was unknown on the map? And I just tested it out. Now, for the companies that we worked with, we had great success. Like, 50%, 100%, up to 600% growth year over year. And there were other metrics that we measured. But I knew that 22% of whatever you do in a laboratory, in marketing, in anything is going to work. I mean, you've probably seen entrepreneurs that start a business because they had one client they did great success with, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, the rest of the 78% or whatever that is, right? There's variables. Things might not work. And so we just poured a ton of campaigns through that process to work out what worked, what didn't work. And then by the end, we had a trademark process, but we didn't know what to call it. And our clients and our prospects that would come to us said, you know what, you're like the opposite of PR. You're like the antithesis of PR, right? Their viewpoint was PR was fluffy. It was a bunch of jargon that says nothing. Hi, we're so great. We won an award. Hi, we just got this appointment. Hi, it wasn't addressing what you do in a crisis is the problems, the situations, the solutions to those issues, those controversies, those problems that your product solves, right? And so by able to tell that story, I mean, what's the economic impact of having transparency in healthcare? What is the efficiencies of being able to take, several different, APIs for technology and putting it on one platform, right? What's the profitability? What kind of problems do these solve, right, in regulatory environments? And really exploiting those stories, that became known as the antithesis of PR. It was weird. But that's why we named ourselves anti-PR, and we were first to market for that. And somehow it works.
I can see why it works. And one thing I'm getting from this conversation is that you're using principles of mathematics, of probability, of market research and understanding your client intimately, not just the moment, but where are they going with this? And you're anticipating that this is where you're going, and I'm going to give you the roadmap to get there. Because, like I said, if you've got a poor brand image, let's just say that, you've got a poor brand image, and you may not realize it, but then you go to someone like, we need some PR because we're just rolling out our latest and greatest invention, our latest software that we've got. We're going to light it up, but you don't realize. And remember what we said earlier about that process, that those stages, you have a poor brand image. So then you go to someone like yourself, like, okay, I see what you're talking about, but have you really looked at this before you start rolling out that? You have some stories that you've been able to have good conversation, like, hey, let's just have a conversation with my client about where you really are at in this process and how you're going to be effective. Because the only way you're going to get to a guaranteed ROI, return on investment, you've got to address everything in the formula. Have you had those kind of conversations?
Yeah, and I love that question because we work with brand strategists like yourself a lot, right? I can give you some great examples. There's several that come to mind, but typically what companies forget about, unless they're public companies, and I'm going to tell you why a public company is fanatical about their PR, is because 33% of the entire market cap today, of all of the public companies together, 33% of the value of that market cap is based off of PR, is based off of goodwill, right? That's huge. And so when you look at the volume of how big their communication departments are, how many press releases put out, how many media stories. I mean, it's like the number one item in the boardroom, right? So let's scale that back to private companies, right? One thing they forget to do is look in the perception and the court of public opinion. You can have the greatest product or service, but it's the perception of who's actually better than you or what's actually out there that you're up against. And if you can't find those opportunities, right, within all those barriers and learn how to tell that story to shape the brand in the court of public opinion, you're going to lose. I'll give you want a great example?
Yeah.
Excellent entrepreneur. I love working with him. Stu Showerman of KnowBe4, right? Yeah. KnowBe4 is a titan in the industry for cybersecurity training. And he is a successful entrepreneur. He started as, KnowBe4 years ago. But one thing that he knew back then, your audience will appreciate this. Back then, people didn't understand the need or care for cybersecurity training for their employees. You remember back in the day, everybody thought malware was going to take care of it.
Yeah, that was it.
Right? So how are we going to change the narrative for an entire industry for that, right? Even an entire culture, like in America, not to mention the whole world, right? And one of the things Stu realized is that he had to show in the court of public opinion, press releases, media interviews, articles, how companies, especially like government and finance and education systems, which are the most heavily attacked, were actually being attacked.
Yes.
And so finding and taking those, and there's such a large number that go unreported, but the ones that were reported and that were part of public record, taking those and us creating media stories about them and about how it could be prevented and what happened and how the weakest link was the human element. I mean, he did that for a year before he ever started marketing.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And that got people interested, right? Just trying to go straight at the industry analyst or, get the media to cover something that was a good news story. Hey, we've got this solution. They don't care about that. They want to know what the problem is.
Right.
And then they become interested in the solution. That's just one example.
This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Please visit www.5starbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand.
That's a fantastic example, and you framed it so well. And I found this, I've been in information technology 25 years, and what that has done is got me a lot of exposure to tech companies and their entire process. I was in the sales world, right? Business development, account management, that type of thing. So I'm at that fourth level, really. I always remember we always had some friction with marketing, right? And then it was like...
Sales always has friction with marketing.
There's always some friction there. Like, you're not telling the story right. I don't have the right content to be able to close the deal. And that's what we really were getting down to. But understanding the PR and then the brand. And I work for some companies that have phenomenal products. They solve some very, very pressing problems. But their storyline was god-awful. It really was. I said, look, the person that's going to actually buy this stuff, it's not really, because there's different buyers. There's a technical buyer, there's a finance buyer, and then there's the executive buyer. Usually the executive decision maker, as you said even earlier, doesn't care about your technology so much as to what the problem that it solves for my company. And if your messaging is not actually speaking to that, that's going to delay your process. And people, a lot of times, they stay with the status quo. It's because you haven't really stepped on the problem. You haven't really honed in on the implications of not doing anything. Think about know before. Hey, look, if you keep throwing malware and software at this, and really the real problem, and I know that a lot of people know this now in the cybersecurity world, the biggest problem is the human problem. And if you haven't educated that, nothing is going to really make a super major impact if your people aren't aware. So I agree with you 100% when it comes down to you've got to get your PR right. Now, a lot of people think like, well, I'm not a Fortune 500 company. I don't have thousands and thousands and millions of dollars possibly to throw at some gigantic PR campaign. Oh, no, before it wasn't $1 million billion company.
This is his money.
Yeah.
I think because the industry has had a bad rap, it's ironic that the PR industry is not looked upon favorably. We're in charge of people's reputation, right? Which is, I think, why anti-PR became so popular, is because people thought, yeah, this is the exact opposite. But, you don't have to throw a lot of dollars at something to get to the right, target, the right gatekeepers to your decision makers to tell a story. You have to have an incredible process. You have to have the ability to know who your audience is and their psychographics so that you can penetrate. And you have to have a little bit of, algorithmic knowledge of how the media works so that you can consistently tell these stories, right? And I'll say something that I think you could understand, being in biz development and in healthcare and technology. You could talk to system admins, for instance. They need your product or service, right? But then there are layers of executives that need to be convinced. And I hate to say it, but sometimes it can be bureaucratic or political. And then the higher you go, those executives, they don't want to get fired for hiring the wrong company. Right? And we understand that. Right? It's like, what's that old saying? Like, you never got fired for hiring IBM.
That's it.
IBM may not be as agile and have the best technology, right? But because they have such brand credibility, then if something doesn't go right, then the people that signed off on hiring are typically not going to get taken to task compared to versus hiring an unknown company or an unknown funded startup that really doesn't have that credibility to back them up in their decision making. So that's the power of PR. And it also is so much less expensive to communicate stories like that and earned media to the decision makers that aren't necessarily the ones that are buying, but that influence the buyers.
I love that. And I want to talk about relationships now, because that's where people are picking up the stories. Like, senior executive, of a major corporation might be looking at CIO magazine, or someone else is picking up an industry tabloid, or they're starting to see, Forbes is talking about your product or your service. Like, wow. So now you're piggybacking it on all these other recognized brand, and then they're talking about you now become a part of that recognized brand. Talk to us about the relationships in public relations.
Oh my goodness, that's really funny. I would say that's a good question, and it's also a 70-year-old question. And I'll tell you why. When people don't know how to buy PR, one of the things that they ask are, what are your relationships? And that's the old days of the Rolodex, right? Today, we live in such a fast world, and we have so many more media than we used to have. Like, I have 1.6 plus million journalists in real time in our database, just in North America, not even our global database, right? And so it's called the network media. It's not just all centrally located in New York anymore, right? It's all over the world. It's podcasters and bloggers and industry publications that speak to a super, targeted segment of decision makers, right? And so relationships only matter today if you bring the goods. As long as we understand their target audience and what content they need and how overworked they are, like overworked. New York Times has to put out 262 articles a day.
Wow.
That's the level of content in the US media, right? So overworked, underpaid, demand for content, fierce competition because now everything's online. Your local business journal competes against the Wall Street Journal. You have to know how to tell that story and pitch them that's going to give them content and ideas that's going to bring them more eyes, more views, and more advertisers. And if you do that consistently, there's your relationship. And the minute you don't, you are persona non grata. Non gratis, right? It's no longer a relationship. So does that answer it?
Oh, no, 100% it answers it.
Yeah.
Especially with social media. Things are moving so fast. Now we got this thing called artificial intelligence, generative AI out there that can quickly create content, but it's still got to be accurate. It's still got to be curated. It's still got to get out there, but you still got to know the outlets and then the broad reach. What is the broad reach? I'm curious to ask you this, because now, 5-Star BDM is an affiliate of Joto PR. KJ reached out.
Yes, you are.
I want to work with you. I'm like, well, we have a relationship, but why did you reach out to 5-Star BDM? What is it about 5-Star BDM that attracts you?
Well, number one, you're in technology and healthcare, but you understand also the value of brands. And we also know that brand strategists need a vehicle to communicate the brand once it's been delineated or once it's been revised. And there is this, I don't know if it's just a misunderstanding, but sometimes people think if we build it, it will come. If we change our brand, then people will automatically know. But you need that firepower behind that brand communication, right? And you are very savvy. You watch how the economic landscape has changed, how the communication channels have changed, how networking and business development has changed. And really, that's all about disruption and innovation. And you can't do things the way you've always been doing it before. You can't tell the stories the way you've been doing it before. And it is about relationships, but on a more exponential scale. And how do you do that and still stay personal? Those are the affiliates that we look for. And that's why we picked 5-Star BDM.
I love it. I'm glad I was chosen to be a great affiliate, because people that need your services, they do get special treatment. There's special pricing. And we have a conversation, because everything is unique depending on the circumstances that you are going to involve 5-Star BDM and Joto PR. What are you looking to do? We're going to give you the excellent advice and consultation that you're going to need. I always talk to people like, all right, what do you want to achieve? I want to be $1 million company. Okay, that's great. I love that. All right, do you know how you're going to get there? Do you know what the investment you're going to need to make, and the things you're going to have to really dig into and take the time to create in order to get to that level, and that you're recognized as a $1 million brand. I call it 5-Star brand. You're recognized. You're out there. And sometimes that takes time. It's not instantaneous. So you're going to have to, like, okay, you might get involved with us. You're like, all right, we're going to roll out a 3-month campaign for you. It's going to cost X. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have to come back and you're going to have to keep repriming this pump, because you got to look at the volume. As you just said, that was just one company. 262 articles a day. There is a ton of content going out. But here's the deal: targeted messaging. I don't need to reach millions and billions. What I need to reach those 1,000 to 5,000 that are in my audience that understand what I do and need my service, and they need to get that message highlighted in front of them. That's why we're doing this now. And I got another question, because I see you do this and I do this, because we're on one of these right now. It's a podcast. Why did you choose podcasting as such a vehicle for you? And you've got your disruption out there. You've just been doing, you've been jamming for a while. What type of value do you see in podcasting?
Wow, it's such a wonderful new medium. I was just looking at a database that had like 2 million podcasts in there, right? And just even the companies trying to capitalize and put these all into a database, right? It's a brand new subset of the communications industry. Grant, we didn't start off as a podcast. If you remember, we started off doing quarantine press conferences for the media during the pandemic, because our media partners came to us and said, we're furloughed, but we have so much more demand for content. And how are we going to help our readers and our listeners and our viewers, which are business leaders, navigate the pandemic? So We had our subject matter experts in tech, from health tech to insure tech to shipping and logistics to e-commerce, even infectious disease experts and, hardware, software, on these quarantine press conferences with their clients, hundreds of business leaders and the media, all asking questions to these experts about, how do I handle this? I have to put my company on a remote workforce. We can't get our hardware to do that. Shipping and logistics experts would say, this is what's happening. This is what you can do. And real time, that's how it started. And then we saw that there was such a need to talk to innovators and disruptors that just turned into a podcast. Let's interview these guys. Let's interview the guys that are out there trying to make the world a better place, right? Pioneers, arrows in their backs, that know there's a better way, using technology to make things possible. And let's interview these guys one by one, client after client. And we got referrals like you. And then we would send those to the media because they want to talk to subject matter experts. They want to talk to innovators and disruptors. And that's just sort of how it started. And, it's still that way today. We still talk to industry disruptors and leaders, and the media still want to talk to them after the podcast. But we kind of fell into it. But I can tell you this, and I'm sure that you've seen this. Our guests tell us that they use this to pitch investors. They use their podcast to tell their story so that their sales teams don't have to. They use their podcast to create a relationship. Like, you can see the person. Do you like them? Do you like their story? Do you hear what they have to say? It's a way to get content in the comfort of your own space without being something crammed down your throat. You can make your own decision on it. It's cool.
100%. The authenticity comes through. I think people right now, especially in today's world, they want to see something authentic. And that's almost like the anti-AI that's going out there. I want to see an authentic voice.
Yeah.
I want to see an authentic person. And I want to have an authentic message. I have seen more and more business owners wanting to come on my show because they say, I have to be the face of my brand. They don't know me. They don't know what I look like. They don't know what I stand for. Why am I doing what I am doing? And if I can convey that on your show, that's going to be great. And remember this, it's not just, a lot of times it just comes out, live. People think, all right, did I miss it? Like, no, it lives on. That content lives on and on and on, day after day, week after week, month after month, year over year, that you can now repurpose for anything within what you're doing if it's still relevant to what you are doing from product and service and all the other things that you're involved with from a business or career development standpoint. I love that. I'm going to unplug for a minute. I want you to talk directly to my audience right now. And there's a lot of people out there that are in different levels of where they are in their life cycle. And they need to understand how a Joto PR can help them.
Great. So all you listeners out there, if you are a disruptive, innovative tech firm, right? You could be from startup and seed funding or, through multiple series of funding or just getting going, right? And even larger brands. If you are in a position where you really need to tell your story to millions of people that could improve their lives through your products or services, right? Then our, viewpoint is that you have a responsibility to do so, right? And you don't have to be the adverse effect of the court of public opinion. If you know how it works, and you know how people get information, and you know how they change their minds, right? You can then control your narrative. You can do what public companies do, and you can have the ability to compete against the Goliaths, just like the Goliaths have had for so many years. That's the value of anti-PR. That's the value of taking control of your narrative. And guess what? You don't have to be fully formed and fully successful to get a lot of good PR, right? Today, people want to listen from the guys that are like making products and services that are helping. They want to learn from the guys that are growing, the guys that are struggling and what they're learning and, what they found. I guarantee you have inside information that no one knows, that if people knew it, it would help them. And those are the kind of stories that the media wants today, right? And just, don't think about PR anymore. Like, I've got to be on CNN or the Today Show. I mean, that's the end game, and you will get there. But today, because it's a network media, there are so many third-party credibility channels that you can communicate to and through. And the media is even though it's a big industry, it's pretty small in terms of memory. You give love to those more targeted, smaller journalists and outlets, right? They climb the ladder. They remember you when they get at CNN or they get on the Today Show or things like that. Media begets media. And you can really seem like you're ubiquitous and everywhere just by getting those communications out on those channels and getting your story told.
Man, I love that. Media begets media. I'm going to remember that. I like that. So tell us how to get in touch with you, because I know a lot of people right now, I know I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like, man, I need to touch that button. I need to get in touch. Let's have a conversation with Karla Jo Helms, KJ, as we affectionately call her, and how we can actually scale and grow and get the ROI that we need in our PR world.
Sure, I'd be happy to. By the way, I have a whole team that supports me. I just want to give a shout out to my team. I have about 20 members from around the world. These are all, PR veterans or technologists that have learned anti-PR. And we have a very kick-ass process. But I am the first person sometimes that people talk to. And I really can consult you on anti-PR, right? What's missing in your share of voice? What problems do you need to overcome? What ROI do you need to get? What is needing to be attached to your marketing and sales to increase, the firepower for that? And I can tell you where you're losing out and you have lost income. So you can reach me at jotopr.com. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Karla with a K, Karla Jo Helms. There you go.
There you go. And now we have it. That is a wrap. We say cut and print, right? This has been wonderful. I want to encourage your entire audience to view all the episodes of Follow Brand at 5-Star BDM. That is the number 5-Star BDM. That's B for brand, D for development, and for masters.com. This has been special. And I want to wish you a very, very happy holiday season.
Yes, me too. Thank you guys. And thank you, Grant.
You're welcome.